Hello there and welcome to Shuttlebay 4. This time, we list our favourite captains, so see which gets the highest ranking and which get a spanking.
Captains then, we're doing captains.
Yeah. Did anybody spend the entire week just arguing with themselves?
Absolutely tormented all week.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Tough.
me and Dan have said today, we've just got boom, 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 boom. I can't do this. It's been a really, really, really torturous week, though.
I've got
Because
all
it's
the
like
captains.
a horrible decision to make. I think this is one of the worst decisions I've had to make in a ranking because I feel guilty. That's why.
So they're all number one, except
No, they're not
the
all
one
number
from
one.
Discovery, and then
They're
she's
not.
12th.
Discovery's got about 6 captains to choose from.
Yeah, I didn't do Discovery. One.
I didn't as well because there's too many.
Captain is Michael Burnham, the captain.
Well, his Pike is so many to choose from. Lorca is an amazing captain. There should be one at the top, but I won't put him on my list because there's just too many to choose from him. That's it.
But my general boycott of Disco, it did spawn some good captains. It really did.
Lorca was like Lorca for me. All of you say yes or no. Lorca, he's amazing, isn't he?
Yeah.
So you know what? The reason I couldn't include him as well, because I would have included Lorca out of any Discovery captains, but we find out he's not actually our captain. He's not from our Prime Universe, so that made me not put him on my list.
I always thought the captains in Discovery, by about the 3rd season, I think it was, I thought it was going to go down the same route as Harry Potter with the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, where they've got one every film. I thought it was every season you're going to have a new captain.
That's what it felt like, yeah, definitely.
Pretty much.
And a new uniform as well.
Go on, Brush. What's your list?
I do like Prodigy a lot, but I didn't mention Dal because he doesn't really feel like a captain. You know what I mean? It still feels like cadetish, and Janeway is still in control. So my worst captain is Archer.
What?
He doesn't deserve a captain's role in my mind. He's an angry man, and he acts on impulse and he acts on emotion a lot. He's not a captain for me. My next one is, I'm going to class Lower Decks as episode Mariner. I put her down there. I do like Captain Mariner, and I think she's great.
Isn't it Freeman?
I've got Carol Freeman written down.
Oh, Freeman, sorry. Yeah. Absolutely. That's how much I like her. But I got her name wrong. And wait a minute, Joe, just to rub it in more. That's how much I like her. I got her name wrong, but she's still above Archer. Whose name I got right. So Captain Freeman.
Warp me!
Her arc is really cool already. And actually the episode shows she's super intuitive and clever because they kind of disrespect her on this lower class ship. And yet she always pulls out the mission. So she's cool. My next one is Pike.
Don't tell him, Pike! Pike!
So I'll talk about Pike from Strange New Worlds. He's okay, he's good. And I kind of like him. But he doesn't really super stand out for me.
Yes.
I prefer Pike in Discovery. I really do. Because in that crew, he comes on board and he makes a massive difference and is super, super in charge. And everyone kind of trusts him absolutely. You know what I mean? He makes himself this captain. I find I do prefer him in Discovery than I do in
He's a bit unsure of himself.
My next one above.
Strange New Worlds, isn't he? He's very, very unsure. He's unsteady.
Which he should be as well, because I will also, it comes to one of my mentions. Pike from the original Cage as a character, I prefer to the Pike that we've got today, kind of thing. And what you're saying is he does carry a little bit of weight on his shoulders, but the Pike we see in the Cage, he was considering quitting and he was at a serious stage of his career. And I kind of liked that. I would have loved to have developed that part of it. So Pike for me sits, 1, 2, 3 from the bottom. I can't count back that way. My next one above Pike even is Rios. I'm counting Captain Rios from Picard. I fucking love him and he's gorgeous.
Make it so.
I fancy the pants off that man. And I love the fact the EMHs he had, or whatever you call them, the amount of different characters they had for Rios, the engineer, the doctor, this, that, the counsellor. Loved that. That was amazing. Next one up, so 1, 2, 3. My fourth is Janeway. So these are the stereotypical ones that you've got to categorize somehow. Janeway is definitely bottom of those for me. I like her. I like that she's a female captain, and at the time it was the first female captain, which was really important. I just found her a bit too, abrasive, and sometimes made decisions I totally disagreed with. I felt bad putting Kirk third, but I would want him in my top 3 is what I mean, because he is the ultimate captain, really. Second. Ooh, who's second? Picard for me second.
Okay.
And so I got Cisco first, and I'll talk about both in that kind of sense. So Cisco is first for me.
May I help you, gentlemen?
You must have taken a wrong turn.
It looks that way.
Everyone loves Picard. He is my captain. He's the one I grew up with more. But then after Picard, you got Cisco, so he was like the second captain. And yeah, Picard is ultimate almost. You know, he is amazing. But for me, Cisco, just because he's a single dad, he's all of a sudden sent to this brand new station away from everything and becomes an emissary. He's then designated the emissary of the Prophet by these Bajorans, and all he's there to be is the captain and, well, commander of a station. And it takes him series and series to actually relate to this role he's got as emissary and then embrace it and then totally embrace it. And I think that's whole story arc for me, and the fact that he is a single dad who does such an amazing job. And it's really hard to judge Picard and Cisco, but I'm putting Cisco top.
I'm trying to save your life and the lives of every hostage in that room. And mister, you are not making it easy.
Picard is kind of the ultimate, he's never going to have a family. He's the total dedicated kind of, I'm in this lifestyle, and that is it for me. And then you've got Cisco who had to do that as well as deal with everything else. And so Cisco for me just gets above Picard on my list.
Being a religious pariah does help the situation somewhat, mind.
I don't know, see, but my point about that was more, I do understand what you mean, but it was the fact that he was just this Starfleet officer sent to a station. The Bajoran people told him he was this thing. Okay, I don't want that. Well, you are that anyway. Okay. And then it took a long time for him to really accept it. And then you start to see him embrace it. And then it became his actual old backstory as well, which I thought was so, wow, what a story arc that is. And Picard is ultimate, and is absolute kind of military person who will dedicate his life to this. But it was really interesting for me to see the other side of that, whereas like, I do dedicate myself to this. You can't say Cisco didn't do that as much as Picard did, but had to also have all of this going on as well.
Nice list, Rush. Good list.
Thank you.
I mean, you got one of them wrong, but the rest of them are pretty solid.
Archer's always bottom.
Ultimate top pick is James T. Kirk. And it's not to be cliche, it's because he is my favourite captain. He's a maverick. He carried the whole thing straight in. He's got a very, very long character arc. He was in it for years. I do see a change in Kirk from start to finish, but there's some common themes. He is the guy that I'd like to go out for a drink with, but I would like to work for him as well. You know what I mean? He treats his crew well, and he values his crew. And it's almost like a family. And that whole situation with the crew being a family starts with him. You know what I mean? He would do anything for his friend. He'd destroy his own career. He would steal a starship. He would kill people. He would move heaven and earth for his friend. I like the character. I like the cut of his jib. And I like William Shatner's portrayal of him as well. Next up on my list is Ben Sisko. He's got a really, really tough job. So whereas all the other captains are captains of a Federation starship, Ben Sisko, not only has he got that religious thing where he has to find a respect for the Bajoran religion and then embrace his place, but he's got a lot of other people under his protection. Quark has got his bar, and there's a lot of aliens living on the station. There's people coming and going, and he's got to administrate that. And he's also got like a devolved power situation. Right. So he's got Bajorans on DS9 that work for him as well. And they've got a different agenda and perhaps a different set of rules. So Kira's there, Odo's there. He's got to kind of work that in as well as administering this space station, as well as being on the frontier and the combat situation with the Dominion coming through the wormhole, which could spill out doom at any time. And there's nowhere for him to go. It feels like he really set up a home in DS9, and that was a real community. Whereas on the other ships, a crew is a crew. So I like him for that, and I like the fact that he makes some heavy decisions now and again. You know what I mean? He doesn't just do, kind of exemplified by the fact he punched Q.
Come on, take a poke at me. You hit me. Picard never hit me. I'm not Picard.
Yeah, that's a bit of the character I didn't mention. I should have, because he does make dark decisions Picard could never make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's another thing that stands him above Picard in a way.
He will relentlessly, whereas Kirk will do anything for his friend, Sisko will relentlessly pursue a traitor. And
as he did, yeah.
It's that relentless pursuit. It's that, you betrayed me. You betrayed your uniform. I don't care about your cause anymore. It's not about that. It's you're a traitor. And it struck him deep, and he kind of lost it. He takes the gloves off. Sisko will take the gloves off.
Absolutely, yeah.
He doesn't lose it as a character. So you imagine a character arc where someone's making those decisions because they've lost it, and they lose it completely across the board. He will do that and then go home and be a father to his boy, and be a friend to his friends, and
like that's where Janeway for me was down the list, because she does do that in my mind. Personally, she makes decisions that do cross that line.
Yeah. After that, Jean-Luc Picard. He's cool, calm, and collected. He's a diplomat captain.
Doctor, the sperm whale on Earth devours millions of cuttlefish as it roams the oceans.
He does make the right decision, and for me, he's like the keystone of the entire Star Trek universe.
Yeah,
he's the person that embodies the right thing to do, and sometimes he has to have a think about it. He'll talk to Data for a minute and go, "Do you know what? You do have rights, and I will fight for your rights." And he gets those roles, and those things are explored through Picard. Is Data a living being? Do these people have these rights? Does Worf have these rights as a Klingon? Do we need to respect people's culture? Absolutely, we do. His love of antiquities and the root of culture. I love that. I love that about Jean-Luc Picard. But he comes down the list because I find him slightly less interesting. He's the last person I'd want to work for because he's dry. He's the last person I'd want to go out for a drink with because he's dry. He doesn't even play poker with his crew. Kirk would be running that game. Sisko would be in on that game. He doesn't until the very last episode of the Next Gen. He does. He's just not. He's that disconnected.
I do. Yeah. I see what you mean, but it is his character as well.
That's what makes a good captain, though. You don't want your captain at your poker table.
Yeah.
He doesn't really form a bond or a friendship, and it's okay to do that with professionals. And everyone on his crew is professional. LaForge, Worf, Data, they're professionals. Riker, they could handle that dynamic. And they would.
I can see though. You must see like another John Joe's point that it is also very common that the person in command won't include himself in any of that because
not frequently. No.
The friends that you see him have, like there's an episode. I think is it Tapestry? Is it? Where he's got friends in the academy, and he's almost like a Kirk figure when he was younger, but it's almost like he had to grow out of that to be the man he is today. And he's totally grown out of it. And I do find him one-dimensional and predictable like that. You know what I mean? He's just going to be, Picard is just going to be Picard.
Is, but that is also, like you mentioned earlier, is what it makes him the quintessential captain for the Star Trek universe. Yeah.
After that, I'd say Chris Pike. Again, it's gone back to the Maverick kind of Kirk cowboy type thing, let's get it done. Yeah, that sounds great. I'm not entirely sure what you're doing. I trust that you're a professional. Let's do it. I'm not sure about the hairdo.
You got to love that.
It's getting bigger. It's almost got its own casting call, that thing, that quiff, that pompadour that he's wearing. But
they pay us 75 grand a week.
I just like him. I like the character. I like the actor as well. But I like the character. I like the way he does things. I liked him in Disco, and I do like him in Strange New Worlds. Then Lorca, and I take him as the captain. Yeah, I take him as the captain in Discovery. That's what I'm doing. I don't recognise any of the other captains there. I can't watch them. John, what is it? What's her name?
Michael Burnham.
Well, it's not John, is it?
John Jew?
Giorgio.
Yeah.
Good pronunciation.
Now, we thought you said John, we thought you meant Michael Burnham, but you're not going to confuse Michael for John. Your own name's in John.
Michael Burnham, shit captain, Saru, the shite.
Saru's amazing. Shut your face.
Jonathan Archer comes after that.
You have to accept people who are different than you are.
How high have you put Archer? Where on your list?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down.
Oh, it's a bit high, isn't it?
Yeah, I've had enough of this. Like, we're having fucking less of this.
He doesn't have the benefit of the Prime Directive yet. He's, he is blazing a path. He's the first out there doing it, but he's kind of middle of the road for me. So he's not the best. He's not the worst. Carol Freeman after that, because it's literally a joke. And then at the very bottom of my list, and I don't care what anyone says, it's Catherine Janeway.
I will not comply. Objection noted. We'll do this without you.
Bottom of my list.
Oh my God!
Actually, I'm more offended by that than I am with Archer being at the bottom of Bush's list.
Good, because she's shit. I don't like her voice. I don't like the choices that she makes.
I don't like her voice. That's actually the reason. That's the reason. If someone's voice grates on you, you're fucked, aren't you?
There's so many Star Trek fans though. They quote that. Like, oh no, I hate her because of her voice. It's like, oh, okay.
Her voice is horrible. Her voice is horrible. And the shit she says with that voice is equally as horrible. I just don't like her as a captain.
Why?
Yeah, come on.
Right. She comes up with opportunities to further advance the trip home. She doesn't go home. She's not actually looking to go home. She deviates from that every fucking chance she gets. And I know that's the premise of the series, but you
I can't agree with that in a way. Like she tries her best to get home, except the caretaker that could have sent her home. That decision, fine. Otherwise, she does try her best to get home because it's always Chakotay that's like, no, let's go live on this planet, and she's like, no, we're going home.
I'm not as entertained by Voyager as I am the other series.
Which I think that forms part of the decision too.
Yeah,
right?
and it is. It's a big part of the decision.
Like I'm gonna ask. It's not because she's female. It is the only female captain we've had, kind of thing.
No. That's not it.
I know it's not, and I didn't think it would be. Like I had to ask them.
Let me think. My favourite character in all of Star Trek is Tasha Yar.
No. That it just makes all your opinions.
Really disappointing you tonight.
My opinions are fucking spot on. And anyone that disagrees with them, just stay tuned after, and I'll fucking talk your ear off and tell you exactly why. But
he will, honest to God, he will.
I will. I totally will. I will talk about Star Trek until my voice runs out.
It's not just Star Trek either, guys.
I don't like Janeway as much as the other captains. I don't, I just don't see much there.
It's really interesting though, because we've got different answers, and that's kind of cool. I'm kind of all for that.
Do you know what? You're not the only person to say that, and it's kind of like an element of this group. We all disagree with each other, and yet we all come back every Thursday.
The disagreements are actually so small. Like it's like, yeah. Here's my least favorite captain, but they're all really good.
Except Archer.
Listen.
It almost sounded like you were making a joke.
There's a bit of something for everyone in Star Trek, and because there's so much of it, there isn't a clear front runner. There isn't that is definitely the best captain. Everyone agrees on that, and this is the worst captain, and everyone agrees on that.
Right, we should let Dee go, but go through her list. But before she does it, before everyone joined, me and Brush mentioned one captain we were sure Patches was going to mention, and he didn't mention him.
Oh yeah, and we both thought. I thought he would be top of your list.
Jellicoe.
Jellicoe.
And get that fish out of the ready room.
I didn't put Spock in there, even though he was a captain. I didn't put Jellicoe in there because he's like a guest star.
Yeah.
Honestly, I did think, because you've got a serious hard-on for Jellicoe.
Jellicoe's a business, and I realised that you'd probably not find him playing chess with any of his crew or any of that shit. And that kind of negates my argument, but he's strictly business. And I think if he was given time, he would be cool. The Enterprise is mine now. I love that.
The Enterprise is mine now.
He's got a fucking Trek tingle going on.
He's got a big hard on, I tell you, for Jellicoe.
Johnny Cox, man. Rock that Cox.
He's got a wide on.
always liked Jellicoe when he
I've
was
had one
walking
of them
around and he kept telling everybody, you know, I want these consoles changed. And people were like, well, you know, they're not really for that. It's get it done. And then he goes down in the warp core and he goes, I need all this ready for tactical readiness as soon as possible. Data going, I believe that is achievable. And he said, but it's a lot of work. Get it done.
Yeah, Jordan's like, what the fuck? Data.
Get it done. Get it done. Get it done.
In last place,
Go on,
well,
Dave.
I've got Carol Freeman, Lower Decks. No control on that ship whatsoever. Where have we gone to? 11. Jeffrey Hunter Pike. He's 11. Just because he's only in one episode I've ever seen him in, and that was because we had to watch The Cage for the pilot episodes.
That's fair.
In 10th place, I've got Georgiou, Mirror and Prime.
What you call pain, I call foreplay.
And well done for pronunciation, Dee.
Thank you very much.
It's not John, is it? It's not fucking John.
Georgiou.
It's not John. You're right. It's not John, and it's also not worth remembering. So
Locke,
there you go.
season 1. 8, Burnham. 7, Saru.
Excuse me?
6, we've got Archer.
Grand Canyon?
No.
Big Sur Aquarium?
Sightseeing was not one of my assignments.
What is it?
Oh, he's not even in the top 5.
I have to put Archer 6 because I have not seen Enterprise.
Oh.
I've only watched what we've watched for this. 5th.
Sits in the theme here, John.
Pike 2, Anson Mount.
Pike 2, I like it.
Discovery and Strange New Worlds.
You guys eat that stuff?
You will.
Anson Mount, just because his character development in from Discovery and I mean, he's got the best line in all of it, which is a highway made of mushrooms. Let's have it.
This ship can skip across the universe on a highway made of mushrooms.
That's a great line. In
Someone's looking
4th,
at morphine.
please don't hate me, Kirk.
No, I agree.
Oh, I had him as 4. No, 3 actually. Sorry.
4th, I've got Kirk. Just because he's a dirty tart.
If I touch you again, your glory, it'll be to administer an ancient Earth custom called a spanking.
Well, that's why I thought he would have been top, Dee.
No. No, it's just a tart, isn't it? All the way through.
Dirty bastard.
In 3rd place, Janeway, just because she's boss bitch.
Above Kirk?
Yeah.
Yes, Dave.
Oh, shut your face.
In 2nd is Picard.
Morning, darling.
Just because is Picard and he's Patrick Stewart. He's from Mayfield. He's a Yorkshire lad. He's one of us. And 3rd place,
Unbully special prize!
Cisco. He's well-rounded. He's absolutely brilliant. I love him. My mum adores him. She's met him. She thinks he's great.
Oh, do you know what? I'm gutted. I'm never going to meet him.
Why doesn't he do stuff anymore?
I find what's interesting is he is an artist who wants to be recognised and yet doesn't want to ever meet people.
Did anybody go to the Cisco talk at the Excel?
No, I didn't. I didn't get to see him at all. No.
Obviously, we did. And all he did was talk about art and music.
Yeah.
Wasn't interested in talking about Star Trek. He wasn't interested about talking to his character arc or any of the episodes or any of the storylines or anything like that. He was more into the creative side of his personal life.
Well, no, part of him is he lives today, I feel. It's like I did Star Trek how many years ago?
Yeah.
And what am I doing today? This is what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he's like, that was a long time ago for me. You know, I can't remember that episode because I don't want to. You know, I moved on in my life. For me, he's a magnet. I just would, that is the one man I would love to sit down and have dinner with out of anybody.
But did you see that interview with Shatner and Avery Brooks where Shatner's interviewed him and Avery Brooks is at the piano and
and he's not listening to him. He's not even
he's not listening to him. He starts playing piano and Shatner's looking at him as if saying, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Shatner looks into the camera like, "What the f What
is he doing? And he's like trying to just go along with it, like, oh yeah, jazz. But even when he's playing piano, right? No offense, but it sounded shit. I'm sure he hits a bum note at one stage. I think he exists in a world where he thinks he's like this amazing jazz musician.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason why he's not made it as a big jazz musician.
No matter what, whether I hit a bum note or not, that didn't make the whole performance terrible. I'm just being me in front of you right now, and that is the exact vibe I get from Avery Brooks. Avery Brooks never wants you to actually look at him as Avery Brooks. He's just doing what he's doing in front of you, and he doesn't care.
Having said that, though, about Avery Brooks, I've got to say, Scott Bakula was also like, I'm a rock star. I'm a rock star. I also didn't include anyone from Prodigy because I never felt like there really was a captain there. But here we go. So I've gone from worst to best. I don't really dislike any of these, though. Okay, so my worst one I've got.
Oh, stop being so nice.
The worst one I've got is Burnham.
Let's fly.
Okay, and it's not to knock Disco, and it's not even to knock Burnham. It's just that I never really saw her as a captain, and it never felt like she really deserved it. And she kind of seemed to just drop it like a hot shit anyway. She never. So yeah, she never felt cemented in the role. Next, I've got Carol Freeman, Lower Decks, because I don't really feel like we see much of her captain abilities.
You need professional help.
But that makes sense because that series focuses on the lower deckers rather than, the captain and the top crew. Next, I've got, sorry, John Joe, I've got Archer next. But because I think Archer came across as quite informal, one of those see me as a friend kind of bosses. Also, he did torture someone as well, which I don't like in a person.
He's vile, sorry.
But I will say, though, that I think it's because he was a product of that particular era. I think if Archer existed in a later era, like Voyager, DS9, TNG era, I do think he would have been a great captain. But he just doesn't rank that high for me. But I don't dislike him. Next one I've got is Pike. Now, he probably would have been higher on my list, but it's probably come down a bit with Strange New Worlds. Not because I dislike him in Strange New Worlds, but I just think he was so awesome in Discovery.
Where to, number one?
You're the captain. Captain.
Because I remember watching that and saying to somebody, it might even have been you, Brush, that I think Pike might be my favourite captain. At the time, when he was in Discovery, I just thought it was just incredible.
Maybe it was, because he was awesome in Discovery. He
was brilliant. And since then, I've not seen amazing captain skills. I think he's a great person, but not amazing captain skills.
He blends into the crew now.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
After that, now this is going to maybe be a bit controversial. I've got... Get ready for it.
Oh.
Cisco.
Oh, it's not controversial.
Right.
I expected Cisco to be lower on people's list.
Excuse me?
He lied, he covered up, he can live with it and all that jazz. I think it's morally dubious, I'm going to say that. And I don't like that in my Star Trek captains. But I can see why you did it. Okay?
Yeah, of course. There's all, that is really important because he only did it because he had to.
Although I don't particularly love him as a captain, I actually think he's one of the best characters in Star Trek. I like his relationship with Jake. I think it gives an element to me do not see. But it wasn't just with Jake. He had a real paternal kind of presence on Deep Space Nine to everyone, it felt. Not even just the younger characters like Nog, but he was almost like a father figure to everyone. But I just wasn't always convinced by Avery Brooks, particularly in the earlier seasons. I think it stopped me from really warming to him because I felt like I could see a performance rather than a true character. After Cisco, so I'm into my top 1, 2, 3, 4 now, is Janeway.
Who are you? And what the hell are you doing to my crew?
I think she's a great captain, and I think she's possibly the strongest captain of all of them. She doesn't run away from the Borg. She went to the Borg and she was like, listen,
we're going
to negotiate. And I think she was incredibly strong, but a bit too headstrong. And I don't feel that she really used the crew particularly well. It was like, I'm Janeway, you are basically my subordinates. Yeah.
Isn't that
she didn't feel that close with the crew, and I don't mean that in a friendly way, but it just felt she was a bit standoffish with them, and they never felt that strong. There were strong relationships, but it was always between, say, like Paris and Kim. It was never, she never felt like when she walked on the bridge, everything kind of went quiet. Oh, Janeway's here,
Frosty.
Yeah, a bit frosty. After Janeway, and Patchy is going to hate this, but I think Dee might like it. I've got Saru.
This ship bears the name Discovery. She has carried us into the future. And it will be our privilege to make that future bright.
I do like Saru. I've got a lot of time for him, and I think as a
that he's that high on your
but
list.
not just as a character, but I like him as a captain, because in that
He is
episode we
really
watched, New Eden, where I think he was captain at that point, I thought it was really good. He was sage-like, and he got the most out of the crew, and he got them to do stuff without being a dick. Like when he says to Stamets, he goes, "Run, run," and his I just think he was.
I think one of the biggest parts you mentioned there is sage-like. Saru is, he can talk to the crew and make such sense.
No, but I do feel that it got the most out of the crew, and it feels as though, like I said, it's got a really good way of communicating, and it's quite calm as well. So that was Saru. Then I'm into my top 2 now. Okay, these are my top 2, and I did struggle with this a bit because one of them, to me, is Star Trek when I think of this character, and it's number 2. I've got Kirk.
An arrogant monster.
And I think Kirk is actually quite misunderstood because a lot of people just see him as a womanizer with strange verbal delivery. But the truth is, he was a very caring captain.
William Shatner you're talking about.
He was a very caring captain. He was also very, very intelligent. I mean, I'm sure about 3 times throughout the series, he seems to talk down a supercomputer, which, a lot of people would struggle to do.
Or he's the one that comes up with like an amazing idea to defeat something.
Yeah, and I do think that he's a great...
Yeah, and he's got amazing guile kind of thing.
Yeah, he loves bluff. It's not chess, it's poker. He's got that, man.
But like the whole Kobayashi Maru thing, and I mean later on it's revealed that he cheated at whatever he coded.
Yes.
But that shows
intelligence
in
that sense,
Exactly, yeah. So obviously, I almost hate having Picard as number 1 because it feels like the boring choice. It feels like the obvious one, particularly for me.
Tell us.
But the reason I've got Picard is because there's that thing. What would Picard do? Yeah.
I said that's because Dan lives his life by what would Picard do?
Yeah, you said that in a previous episode.
There is no other captain. I think most fans would say, what would somebody do as a captain to make it the best decision to make?
And I have heard that, a few people use that phrase. And I know it sounds really overboard, but I do genuinely think, and I come from a background where I did have a good, male role model and things like that. I wasn't lacking for that at all. But I do feel like I did benefit from watching Picard when I did as a teen. And I do feel that he genuinely has impacted my way of thinking. And I do, my growth from a teenager into an adult or whatever. But I do love Picard. I love his decisions. I actually made a couple of notes while Patches was talking. He said a couple of things that I thought were really important. And because I think I can add to it. He said Kirk will relentlessly back a friend or the crew. He said Sisko will relentlessly chase a traitor, and I've got my addition to that is Picard will relentlessly pursue morality. The right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Is that justice? That's a good way of putting it, and I like that. Patchy says that. I think you said that Picard kind of embodies, Star Trek, and I think it does. So
he's the keystone. He is the moral compass of the whole show.
For what we know as Star Trek,
yeah. For what we think, yeah. So when I think of Star Trek, I think of Kirk, right? I think to me, Kirk is the stereotypical great captain in Star Trek. But when I think about who my favorite captain is, I've got to have Picard because the elements I like most about Star Trek, which are this morality and such like. And I know it sounds like a really sad, boring thing to like about it.
No, it's not. That is exactly what Star Trek is as values. You know what I mean? That's why we all love it.
But I love that. I do love like those Starfleet values, and that means a lot to me. And to me, Picard represents that more than any of the other captains, which is why is my number 1. Yeah. Also, it's been mentioned about Picard keeping a distance between him and the crew, and in the first season or so, that felt like it was really cold. Didn't come across as particularly well, but later on, it felt like he was doing it reluctantly, and he had to do it. Like Bruce Wayne, right? Like Bruce Wayne, he is Batman, so he's got to kind of be a bit of a dick or whatever. He's got to put that front up,
which is what a commanding officer
exactly, and that's what
is. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and that's what Picard's doing because the truth is, he is. Yes, absolutely. It's been Batman for the rest of the time, so and he can't be both. So that's my top pick.
I like the way that the picks are for the values of Star Trek. Like Kirk would never abandon his friend.
No, never.
The one thing I wanted to say about that is that's why Kirk wasn't like top 2, because he will totally defend his friend even when it's wrong.
But that's the human element, and that is, that's the human condition. Whether you think
as
you
a
made
captain,
a mistake or not,
this was ranking captains.
If that's the value that stands out, it'll come higher in your list. If it's someone that won't abandon their morals,
again, that actually you're talking about now, showing how each of us value different things.
And Sisko, how he's just so centered around family and around like that community thing.
Sisko for me is like the most caring of any.
But having said that,
of all of them.
What is Jonathan Archer's values? Where does he sit within that?
Angriness or defeating.
He only founded the Federation.
Wait a minute, Jojo, go on.
He only founded the Federation.
Jojo,
everyone loves these Federation values.
Who gives a about that shit? Oh, sorry. Wait a minute.
Jojo, do you want to expand on that? What's your list looking like?
Come on, John Joe.
So, bottom of my list. You see, this is the problem.
Come on, do it.
I'm not going to do any of the new treks.
Oh, bottom. Come on.
I don't know. I think it's going to have to be Picard.
Are you certain?
All right. End him. End him right now.
Picard is too by the books. I wouldn't want to be under his command.
So is this where you're coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think so. I'm thinking, I wouldn't want...
Because somebody else already said that as well. Patches said he wouldn't like to work under him.
I wouldn't like to serve under that man. I just wouldn't like it. So I'm with you on that one, John Joe. But I don't know if he comes that far down the list, but I get it.
Well, out of 5, there's only...
Yeah, hesitant to say that because I love Picard. And this is the thing. It's a terrible list because all of them are fantastic. But...
This was never going to be an easy.
No, it has been a difficult.
And I love Patrick Stewart, and I would love to sit down and have a a meal with him.
Patrick.
Absolutely. I think if he was put in a lot of positions the other captains would be, everyone would be dead, just because he was trying to keep the moral high ground, and that's fantastic, mate. But I'm getting assimilated by the Borg, so.
Yeah, Spock's dead and he's staying dead, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, Spock's dead. Tuvok's never existed. The Jem'Hadar have taken over the Alpha Quadrant. Yeah, I just think a lot of times...
Wait, let's sit down and talk. Let's just sit down and talk.
Yeah, right. Next one is Kirk.
Double dumbass on you!
I like Kirk, but he's not a fantastic captain, is he? Let's face it. It's not.
Oh, look at that, says Kirk. Oh, it's smaller now. Oh,
bollocks!
Forward.
Above him is Janeway.
Yeah.
Spicy. If I had to follow someone into battle or get stuck in across the galaxy, I'm pretty sure her or Sisko would be, one of the people I'd like to. If I get stuck 70,000 light years away, I wouldn't want to be with Kirk because he'd just find the nearest one that looked like Riser, and we'd be stuck there shagging women. And Picard would be trying to reform the Federation. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
She's pretty kick-ass. She gets stuff done. She makes hard decisions. She knows that people don't like it and still makes the decision, and that doesn't seem to bother her. No, I just think she's a good, strong character, and she was the first sort of female captain, and I think that's really important.
I felt that was important as well. It's just not just because she was female, but because again, diversity within Star Trek.
Yeah. And she was a good one as well. It wasn't like she was never, they didn't dress her up in pretty clothes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was like, I'm the captain.
Except that episode where
they'll talk about that. Above that, and to be honest with you, I was wrangling with whether Janeway and Archer should be the other way around, because realistically Janeway is better than Archer, but I really like Archer because he had to make do with what he had to do. He fought off so many enemies where the Federation just wouldn't have even existed. Like the Vulcans would have been the lead in pretty much everything, that have held everybody back. And it's not just Archer, it's kind of his crew that was with him, which is a bit of a shit thing because that's not how I've judged all the other captains. They're getting shit on every time because they are not the Federation. It's the only one of the captains, except possibly Janeway, they're not on top everywhere they go. And then the top is obviously Sisko, because if you're going to go to war, you take Sisko with him.
Wow.
Excuse me?
If I was to serve under any captain, it'd be Sisko.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, Steve, are you still here?
Steve,
Why can't
go,
we
go,
see
go.
you, mate?
Come on, Steve.
Right. Basically, bottom of the list.
I know it's
a
going
bit
to
of
be
who's it going to be? Go on.
Burnham.
It fucking is. Burnham and Saru equally because they're both morons. When you get towards the bottom of the list, you think, who do I hate the absolute most? And it's always Discovery. So it's a bit of an easy one to.
We know.
Next up is Archer, unfortunately.
Yeah!
For a lot of the reasons mentioned. His whole mission is basically just getting his ass kicked. And it's just a waste of life, really.
He's an explorer. He's an explorer.
He's not exploring, though, is he? He's after the Zindi, isn't he? He's not exploring in the traditional sense of exploring.
Revenge. He wants revenge immediately.
Exactly.
He's just an angry man.
I've never been this angry in my entire life!
You know what? It would have saved the planet so much money if he just got anger management instead.
I love being angry.
Fourth.
Oh, look at them pair. Oh, look how cute they look. Oh, take a picture, Dan.
Because it's gone chilly now. The eating's gone up.
Is that genuine Ewok skin? Okay. Is that genuine Ewok skin?
You side.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh, isn't he?
Oh my God, it's fucking bungle.
Does the Queen make all the sandwiches and cakes herself?
Oh, no, Bungle. She's far too busy. She wouldn't have the time.
Oh, and get a load of Zippy next to her.
Oh dear, we are having a lot of trouble today, aren't we?
And whose fault is it, Zippy?
It's certainly not my fault.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
It is.
I'm going.
Right, slightly controversially, in fourth is Sisko.
You're bluffing.
Am I? Commander, launch torpedoes.
The whole thing with Sisko for me, it's not that I dislike him. It's just that everybody's attributed to how much he's done and how well it was. Well, to be fair, the Prophets did a fucking fair chunk when it came to the war. They basically got rid of all of those Dominion ships in the wormhole.
Because you asked him nicely, though.
He was one of them, really, wasn't he? He was born from one of them.
No, he was the emissary of the Prophets.
Well, he was born from one of them because his mother was a prophet.
Your mama was a snowblower.
I like Sisko, I like his whole storyline, but I just think he didn't win it himself because he had help from the Prophets. He went to a Cardassian spy and it was essentially fucking war crimes. You know, for me, that's not essentially what embodies the Federation and what they're about. Right, third for me is Kirk.
Something wrong? A kink in my back. That's it. A little higher, please. Push hard. Dig it in there, Mr. Thank you, Yeoman. That's sufficient.
Just because he's the original and I like him. He's a bit like Riker. He likes to go around and f the universe, but he actually explores. Second for me is Janeway, just because she took on the Delta Quadrant and kicked its ass. She had more encounters with the Borg than anybody else. And first for me, which is probably no surprise, is Picard.
Captain.
I know people have mentioned the fact that he's a bit rigid, he sticks to the rules, but he always achieves, what he sets out to do within the confines of the rules. He doesn't need to break them. He finds a way around.
True.
Well, no, but I mean, not as much as Sisko does, but he always gets to the end objective within the confines of the rules. And I think him and Kirk in some ways were similar, but also diametrically opposed in the fact that Kirk was very fly by the seat of your pants, make it up on the fly, do what you've got to do to get by. Whereas Picard is the opposite. He's by the book, follow the rules, think of the implications, get to your end objective. But then equally, they were both, as much as Kirk totalized, he was also very separate from the rest of them.
You
Kirk
say to both Kirk and Picard, who is the quintessential Starfleet captain? And you could say the same about Kirk and Picard, that they are that, but for very different reasons.
If you think about it, because they were captains in different times, so the Federation wasn't as big as it as it is, as we would think it now, when Kirk was about. So you did have to fly by the seat of your pants. You did have to defend yourself.
You're
you did
right,
have to
yeah, absolutely.
go the extra mile. Whereas Picard had all the backup. He had the rules, the regulations. He had the foundation behind him. So although they did it in two very different ways, they did what was right for the time that they were in. And for me, the thing that my top three share is that they, as captains, they always kept themselves separate from the crew. They took the weight of what they were doing on their shoulders, essentially, and their shoulders alone. Not so much with Janeway because she was on her own. She had to lean on Chakotay a bit more.
I would say a little bit more on Tuvok than Chakotay. Chakotay was just, okay, these are command decisions. We have to kind of make them together, but okay, you don't want to make this decision, I'll go against you. And then Tuvok was a confidant.
She believes that she made an error in judgment 4 years ago, that she's responsible for stranding Voyager in the Delta Quadrant.
I like the fact that they all three of them, they didn't, I don't want to say influence their crews, but they kept themselves removed.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that, those three. Yeah.
And that, to me, is what a captain should be. The captain is in charge. They're not your best buddy. They're your boss. They're responsible for you. And quite frankly, Picard had 1,000 lives underneath his belt to protect.
I like the fact that John Joe has confirmed a little bit of if he was under a captain, you know what I mean? This was my commanding officer, the ones he would choose, and that's quite interesting because we're looking at Star Trek characters on TV, which is a fantasy TV show, and yet he can come from experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of aligns a little bit with what you were saying.
Yeah, no, that's my list and my reasons.
Excellent.
Ooh, a round of applause. Thank you very much.
What's this clicking? What is that? I've been watching Schitt's Creek, sorry.
Right, I'm just going to do a top five. Okay, so at number five, just because I've got to put someone in at number five, I'll say Janeway. She had some tough decisions to make. She was the only Federation ship for miles on end, and she had to make a lot of really difficult decisions, and generally mostly on her own, because all Chakotay wanted to do was, let's find a planet, we'll settle down, we'll take our chances. Sod off.
You didn't poison the coffee, did you?
Not any more than I usually do.
At number four, I'm going to say Cisco.
Excuse me?
I'm not completely down with the whole him being a prophet thing and everything. It just that never really sat with me. But as a tactical captain, he was brilliant, and he made decisions that were very questionable. And on one episode, as we know, we reviewed it. He had to sit down and he had to wrestle with his conscience about those decisions that he made. At number three, Lorca. I know technically it's Mirror Lorca, but I'd like to think there's not going to be too much difference between Prime.
Well, it should be the exact opposite.
Well, they should be. But, you
know. I know. No, I loved him. He was awesome.
You know, obviously, Picard had Engage. I loved Go. If I was going to be a captain, that's what I'd have. Go. Right, so the next two, obviously, I struggled with because Captain Picard is my captain. From the very first episode right through to the series, the films, he is my captain. However, I got involved in Star Trek because of those films.
Really?
And for that, my number one spot will go to Kirk, because if it wasn't for Kirk, I probably wouldn't have got involved.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Everybody remember where we parked.
Actually, it's not unusual as well. There's a lot of people who saw films and never saw an episode of Star Trek. And
yeah. You've got the Kirk cologne, haven't you?
Yeah, it's here.
T. Kirk.
Oh, yes, yeah. He's trying to sell these fucking things. He's got hundreds of them along his way.
I've just got one.
So you can see that Kirk needs a cologne. Picard will never have a cologne. He's a red wine man. That's the difference.
That's what you smell like, red wine.
Dan, have you actually worn that?
Red wine.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring it with me. I'm bringing it with me to July, so you can smell like.
On the dole. What am I going to
smell like James T. Kirk.
Let's see if it gets me laid.
Yeah, both products, both red wine and Kirk cologne.
It's aftertaste, not fucking magic, Chris.
Oh wow!
Does Jed need to do his list? Have you got a list, Jed?
Yeah.
Of captains. Come on then.
Bottom, Archer.
Yeah.
Because he's not here, you mean?
Love it.
But it's,
This is going to kill Penfold.
but
In your
I
face,
don't,
John Joe's chair.
I don't mind any of the captains, right? I think they're all good in their own aspects, but out of all of them, Archer is too much of a mate.
Yeah, I said that. It's like a friend rather than a boss.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant it as in the condom.
Mates, you make love, they make sense.
After Archer, I've only done the main ones. After Archer, I got Janeway. After Janeway, I had Picard.
Controversial.
I don't mind Picard, but meh.
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 Oh no, wait! I don't mind Picard, but meh.
After Picard, I had Pike.
Oh.
Ooh.
I
Interesting.
don't mind Pike out of Discovery, and now they're building up on the character in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying Pike. Pike's Starfleet. Pike's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Shit. Above Picard.
After I've got Kirk. Kirk's Kirk. Top one, Cisco.
Excuse me?
Oh!
Flat
I know
five,
people
think
will
that's
argue saying he's not actually a captain, he's a commander. But
He doesn't
He does get
No,
promoted.
he got promoted.
Yes, he got promoted.
He gets promoted to
He
shut
gets
up.
promoted.
Everybody just we get promoted.
He kicks ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He'd go to the dark places most captains wouldn't go to get the job done.
I thought this discussion would be it'd all be a battle between Picard and Kirk. So it's been quite interesting to see that
It has actually.
it
It
hasn't.
really
I think
has.
Cisco's
I
consistently.
But
coming
Cisco's been up there as well, yeah.
Excuse me?
And I just say, Chris looks so relaxed.
Do you know what? That arm is going to get really,
Dead.
really numb soon.
It is, yeah.
Maybe that's the plan.
It looks like Jeff Goldblum. That's it. You know that thing of Jeff Goldblum just laid like that. That's what it looks like, Jeff Goldblum.
No, he fucking does not look like Jeff Goldblum.
He does. It's Jeff Goldblum.